Greetings, everybody. It is at this end early on a Sunday afternoon, and while it is only December 5th, in terms of doing my year-end post, which I'm sure I'll do at the very end of the year, I am very much in a reflective and planning mode, and so I will share with you thoughts on my own performance this year, areas where I think I can do better, and thoughts and plans for 2011. I think this is a good time of year for all of us in general to begin to wind down our trading and get ready for that next year. We've worked hard over the last 11 months, and the year end is always a good benchmark in terms of turning the page on the calendar and turning the page mentally in your own trading. So that's a bit of what I'm doing. I have posted links to my last two year-end posts, the 08 Night to Dance post and the 09 Another Night to Dance post, in a little bit of a different vein. And this year, I'm not quite sure what I'll title the year-end post, but right now it's going to be probably something along the lines of being fully engaged, and probably as much looking ahead as it is looking back, at least in my case. But for a moment, I am going to look back. I know that there was one area in my trading where I could have done a lot better, and that was in the area of being fully engaged at times. And as I look back at my own performance, I know that I can count at least 10, maybe close to 20 times this year where I tried to cheat the business a little bit in terms of not making that extra effort, not getting up at that 3 or 4 a.m. Time frame where that optimal MATD entry was, that made it difficult to do when the U.S. cowboy market, as Europe likes to call us at times, opened up at 9:30. Many times this year where I did rest a little bit on the laurels, rest a little bit on the acorns that have been stored up, and didn't make that or take that extra step that's really required all the time to not only attain but maintain personal peak performance. And so that's something that I am rededicating myself to as I approach the next year. I'm going to work harder. I have very few excuses right now in terms of distractions. We are in our empty nest years, at least when we're not during school holidays or vacations. And despite other business interests that I do have going on, including work on the long-term asset management business, which we'll continue to talk about as we move forward, I really have no excuses for not performing at my level of capability. And so that's one area that I was very disappointed in myself this year. It certainly showed in the financial figures in terms of, again, not reaching full potential. Yes, I do have high standards. I do have high goals for myself. But when you know what you're capable of doing, that really becomes a pretty much a self-evident benchmark. And so that's what I'm going to work on for 2011. On the plus side, there was a lot of good that happened this year. Not so much maybe in financial terms as in spiritual terms, or in things that I know that we did tangibly in other areas. At this end, I know I've talked a little bit about a bit of a spiritual rebirth at my end. It's somewhat ironic at the age of 49 that I can be talking about that, but I've certainly been through various efforts this year that have helped me get closer to my roots and my foundation, and I had to be reminded, I think, in a few different ways what was most important. And I know that I was tested many times this year, and in terms of maybe God asking me if my priorities were in the right place, and so I feel fairly confident that in the really important areas of life that we're able to do some good. I know that on the charity side, we continued to do some good things with the American Diabetes Association, the effort that we started with the Grow Uganda group, some of the discussions that I've had with some of you lately in terms of some of the difficulties that we go through in this business. And I feel really as good at the end of this year, 2010, as I did at the end of the last 2 or 3 years, but in a little bit of a different manner. So it's certainly been interesting. And I am very eagerly anticipating and looking forward to 2011. My trading is going very well at this point. I'm looking at continuing to do some things that have never been done in the industry in terms of the trading after dark effort, which we are oh so close. So just hang in there. One of the things, though, that I wanted to talk about, again, as I look back at my own trading, and many of you know that I've talked about this book a whole lot over the years. It is a $10 investment in the best trading book that's out there, even though it's intended to talk about poker, because the similarities are oh so similar. And I just want to touch on Rule 271, which is entitled "The Dangers of Moving On from Things We Shouldn't Move On From." And I'm just going to read from this a little bit, so bear with me. It says, "The human mind has a natural tendency to sum things up and move on, to file away what we know and go on to the next thing, something more advanced. This is especially true of the Western mind, a desire to move on from the concepts we already know. But what a bad idea this is for some things. For what if there is no next step? The problem is that some things shouldn't be moved on from. A lot of concepts need to stop right there, on the dime." And he provides some examples here. "They're not a phase or stepping stone on the road to something else. There isn't a next step past them. So our natural tendency to do this can lead to problems. And this phenomenon occurs in poker too, as we try to move on from the things we already know." He goes on to state that this is probably true of all sports and games. We reach a level of expertise and then backslide into bad habits we've long ago instructed ourselves out of as we make an attempt to move past them. We also reach a point of impatience, when our good play doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So we start to press a little, we push too hard, leading to inferior play. By so doing, we find ourselves once again in the land we once inhabited as an amateur. We have walked back through a door into our own past again. And how true this is in life. Forget about poker, in life, in trading. You know, how many times do we conquer something only to slip back at times? This has certainly been true in my own trading this year, in terms of, again, either not being fully engaged during those times I needed to be, or trying to improve on what may not be improvable, if you will. You know, if you know the pattern, if you know how it's going to play out, you have a tendency to get in a little bit too early at times, and you may have seen that in my own trading at times. The risk, of course, of not getting in is not being in at all. It's a risk that I accept, and I typically always get in near and around wholesale levels. And so, but there were times this year when you know, tried to make some tweaks, you know, a little bit better, a little bit earlier, a little bit heavier sized, and you know, this book and this point is just right on. And it's interesting because I know when I look back at some things in life, you think of experiments like the New Coke experiment years ago, or what's another example? Some of the car manufacturers, you know, the BMWs, I think now are just awful in terms of quality compared to the E-Series, the one that I've got back in the early 2000s. You know, other areas. I was sitting at my daughter's PC the other day, and she has Windows Vista on it, with Windows Office or Microsoft Office 2007, I think it is, which was a horrendous revision to the 2003 in terms of usability. So I fully get the fact that some things just shouldn't be moved on from. And in terms of my own trading, I will say that was true in spades at times, where I just should have kept doing what I was doing and maintaining that. When you and let's face it, when you reach the top of the industry for your asset class, you know, and as they say in the golf terms, you know, don't try to take 10 strokes off your game. You can do that if you're shooting 120. If you're shooting 80, 85, a bit difficult to do. So, you know, I was certainly reminded of that in a few areas this year. But wanted to share that with you. Certainly want to continue to thank all of you for your friendships. Special thanks out there to Linda Ratchke. She and I chat at times when each of us might be in a bit of a fog. There's not a whole lot of people that we can go to and turn to when we have our own struggles. So I just want to appreciate and say thank you to that. Continuing to do a lot of good. I think there is a lot of improvement we can still do, though. Speaking of improvement, on the educational side, trading after dark, made some tweaks over the weekend in terms of the scorecard and how we're going to roll that out. You see a smile on my face because I know some of the things that we're going to be putting out, and I think it's going to turn the industry on its head. I really do, and doing so for all the right reasons and all the right motives. So. Just hang in there on that. That's about what I have today. A lot to reflect on this year. A year, a bit of spiritual renewal, although there's certainly a lot I can do in that area as well. I guess we'll be improving in those areas until the day that we depart this place for another one. So onward and upward. Feel great about my trading. I've got a few more weeks before the end of the year, wind down into the holidays, kick off 2011 with a bang. Lots of good to come. So check out my last few year-end posts. We'll get ready for this one, and you'll kind of know what that's going to look like at this point. Take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Take care.